Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our Budget Committee meetings. We are going to be going through a couple more presentations this morning, and like I said previously, I'm hoping that we'll be done around noon. We do have regrets from Councillor Longo today, and I think everyone else is accounted for. Are there any new declarations of pecuniary interest? I don't see any. Very well. We're going to go straight into the presentations then, starting with the community infrastructure area. Phoebe Fu, you're up. Welcome, and we look forward to the information.
Thank you, Chair Adams. So first of all, I'd like to apologize for my voice. I have a terrible cold, so I'll try to speak up. The Community Infrastructure Commission includes 4 departments with its mandate to provide safe and sustainable transportation, stormwater, and natural infrastructure for the town of Oakville. Our program generally oversees the planning, construction, operations, and maintenance and direct service delivery to customers within our road right-of-way, along with the corporate asset management function to develop policies, procedures, and practices, and guide the management of all of the town's infrastructure in an efficient and sustainable way. With the Commission, there are 5 program areas spanning across 4 departments, which include Oakville Transit, Roads and Work is the Infrastructure Maintenance Program, Transportation Engineering Department is the Infrastructure Planning and Improvement Program, Corporate Asset Management, and the newly formed Stormwater Management Program that involve all 3 departments in our commission with the exception of Transit. The Community Infrastructure Commission 2025 accomplishments cover all 4 of Council's strategic priority areas. Under growth management, we have completed Transportation Master Plan, a future-looking plan that coordinates mobility solutions and services, transportation infrastructure, and related policy through to 2051. This plan plays a key role in sustainable urban growth and livability. We're also on target to complete Midtown technical studies with plan to come to Council later on this year. We have implemented the first year of the service changes identifying the Oakville Transit 5-year business plan, with expanded realigned routes, frequency increases along Trafalgar and Dundas, and expansion of ride-on-demand into more neighborhoods in Ward 7 and Palermo, providing seamless connections to key hubs such as the hospital and Glen Abbey. We have a number of major road projects such as York Street and Wallace Road urbanization, Westminster Drive, 6-line Crosstown Trail between Kelsa Gates and Ridge Landing, all contribute to creating efficient road and AT, active transportation network across the town. Under community belonging, we continue to implement infrastructure to improve road safety by completing 9 traffic calming projects. Further to foster a more inclusive and connected community, we implemented Council's direction in providing free caravan service. And lastly, to ensure service resiliency, we completed the development of significant weather event protocol that defined the criteria to declare a significant snow event with enhanced communication procedures. Under environmental sustainability, we continue our electrification journey and added 15 new conventional e-buses, bringing the total battery electric buses to 30. To ensure we have sustainable funding source to maintain, rehabilitate, and improve our stormwater infrastructure, we completed a comprehensive analysis of our needs and developed a new stormwater funding structure and fee model. I will speak more to the stormwater fee later on in my presentation. Under accountable government, we delivered on a successful flooding preparedness public awareness campaign, launched in response to the severe rain event experienced in July 2024. This helps the community prepare for potential flood incidents, inform the community about flood protection resources, where to find them, and how to prepare for flooding. It also clarified the role between homeowners, the town, the region, and conservation authorities, while encouraging the community to make simple, impactful, and enhancements to flood-proof their property. We will continue to proactively communicate regarding flood resiliency every year during the spring and fall raining season with education material and messaging through our regular channels. Further, to reduce risks to unauthorized intrusion into critical traffic and IT infrastructure, we have completed digital key locks at all our traffic control cabinets. So moving on to our commission key KPIs. From an asset management perspective, you have heard from Director Hewison earlier this week. Asset management is an ongoing process, and we continue to evaluate our practices and our plans. With that important work, the town has 90% of assets in good and fair condition, indicating that the town is investing in an appropriate amount of funding to support the infrastructure in an overall good state of repair. Active transportation infrastructure includes sidewalks, multi-use trails, cycle lanes, and sign routes in the town right-of-way, and while outside of the right-of-way, there are recreational trails. This is a corporate KPI that also includes kilometers constructed through the town capital works and through development. For 2025, 12 kilometers of AT infrastructure has been added to the network, primarily sidewalks through development. And in Appendix M of your package has the active transportation investment planned in the 2026 budget for your reference. As part of the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program, we will hit a new record of most amount of pedestrian crossovers, PXOs, installed in 1 year with 28 locations, which will bring a total of 116 PXOs across the town. Our Roads and Work Department continue to provide excellent operations and maintenance activities with minimal deficiencies and generally achieving all service levels requirements for winter maintenance. We completed our first year limited windrow clearing service with 844 registered users. That's 76% of the program cap of 1,100 users. We are halfway now through our registration period for this season coming up, and we have already 640 registrants at this time. We continue to experience growth in our transit ridership. With the 5-year business plan as a guide, transit services will continue to improve connectivity, service levels, and increase operational efficiencies. Later on in my presentation, you'll see more details regarding transit KPIs. Excuse me. There are a number of emerging trends and influencing factors that we are closely monitoring, all of which have shaped the development of the 2026 budget. Traffic congestion and road safety remain top concerns for our residents. Guided by the Transportation Master Plan and the Transit 5-year business plan, we continue to explore ways to improve mobility, support land uses that encourage alternative modes of travel, and enhance safety through a Vision Zero lens. These efforts are complemented by increased investments in education and promotional programs to encourage shifts in travel behavior. The recent provincial announcement regarding the automated speed enforcement, ASE, has directly impacted our 2026 budget planning. With the anticipated program cancellation, which was confirmed earlier this week, we have removed all ASE-related revenues and expenditures at this time. In alignment with our climate action plan, we are embedding low-carbon strategies into both our daily operations and long-term infrastructure planning. This includes identifying opportunities to support the transition to electric vehicles and promote alternative travel modes that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The growing frequency and severity of storms have underscored the need for resilient infrastructure. We are prioritizing green infrastructure solutions that mimic natural water cycles and regularly updating our practices and protocols to meet the evolving demands of these events to further our service resiliency. As Director Hewison has emphasized, refining our asset management practices is essential to address aging infrastructure and ensure sustainable capital investment. This need is further amplified by rising construction costs and tariff impacts, which continue to challenge our financial planning. And finally, the increased volume of data generated through our work presents an opportunity to improve our decision-making, enhance operational efficiency, and deliver better customer service experience. So, based on our understanding of emerging trends, community priorities, and guided by the Council's strategic priorities, the 2026 budget has been developed to reflect evolving needs and support continuous improvement in service delivery. We are continuing our investment in the Oakville Transit Facility upgrade, which include electrification infrastructure and expansion. Substantial completion is expected by 2026, enabling battery electric bus operations and provide capacity for future fleet growth at the facility. Transit will also be implementing service improvements from the 2026 Transit Annual Service Plan by providing more frequent service on selected routes and expansion of service areas. This further increases transit accessibility and promote alternative mode of travel. Staff will also be completing a transit survey to help inform transit service initiative for the 2027 Annual Service Plan. Alternative mode of travel such as micromobility are gaining momentum. E-scooters in particular emerge as a key topic during Transportation Master Plan consultations. We will be completing the e-scooter implementation review in 2026 to guide future planning. To ease congestion and improve traffic flow, signal optimization was completed on Rebecca Street and along Lakeshore Road between Dorval and Allen Street in 2025. In 2026, we will be implementing similar improvements on 6th Line, using technology and data analytics to enhance signal timing, reduce delays, and improve overall safety. As part of the growth management and community belonging strategic initiatives, we will continue to implement the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program. Highlights for 2026 include traffic calming measures at 4 schools located on major collector and minor arterial roads, and the construction of 12 new pedestrian crossovers, PXOs, and the program detail will be presented to Council on November 24th. Under environmental sustainability, we're very excited that we'll have 13 electric buses, 7 conventional, 6 specialized are planned to be delivered by the end of 2025 and will be operational and on the road in 2026. This will increase our total e-bus fleet to 43. As part of the Climate Action Plan, Roads and Work will complete town light-duty vehicle and small equipment EV plan, where we will evaluate the applicability and financial impact of EV conversions. Under Accountable Government, Asset Management will be completing the proposed level of service documentation for our asset management plan. This work will further future-proof our infrastructure program to ensure there are sustainable funding to support our aging infrastructure. In 2025, staff completed a full operational review of corporate stores within the Roads and Works Department. This review identified ways to improve service and efficiency, including automating the product order form to streamline the ordering process, eliminating manual tracking, and enhanced forecasting for budget planning, and strengthened the customer experience with our internal customers. As part of the corporate operating efficiency exercise, our commission contributed to 4,900 of savings in office supplies. However, separate from that, we have also identified other efficiencies through the budget process within our department that help alleviate the overall need for budget increases. I'd like to provide some highlights. From the recent Climate Action Update Council report with the electric buses, we resulted in the elimination of approximately 208,000 liters of diesel consumption between October 2024 and July 15, and avoided an estimated 698 metric tons of CO2 emissions. We continue to account for these reductions of fuel in our operating budget as more electric buses are brought on the road. This year, with the assistance from our Facility Services Department, the town officially enrolled in the transit facility in the Independent Electricity System Operators Industrial Conservation Initiative. That was quite a mouthful. Marking a significant step towards a smart energy management. This program incentivizes large energy consumers to reduce their electricity usage during peak demand hours, typically the hottest day of the year. By shifting or lowering consumption during these critical periods, we will lower our electricity cost and lessen its environmental impact by reducing reliance on carbon-intensive natural gas peak plants used during these peak periods and ease strains on the electricity grid. With the implementation of the salt management plan, we optimize salt application to minimize salt use where appropriate, which will result in efficiencies in the future. To enhance customer experience, we have combined the plowing of sidewalks with the bus shelters this coming winter. This not only created efficiency by creating one contractor responsible for both activities, it also eliminated two separate departments being involved in snow plowing. Through the corporate store lean review supported by Business Support Unit, key efficiencies identified include reducing carrying costs through inventory analysis, where obsolete stocks are to be returned or eliminated, and data automation through proposed Power BI dashboards, which will result in an estimated 25 to 30% reduction in administrative reporting time. Finally, through the ongoing work of asset management, we continue to identify efficiencies in how we manage infrastructure, extending asset lifespans, balancing funding needs and risk, and create capacity for future growth and alleviate funding pressures. These initiatives reflect our commitment to operational savings, cost avoidance, and continuous improvement. Approximately 95% of the community infrastructure operating budget and 85% of the capital budget support Council's strategic goal of growth management. As the primary objective of the infrastructure planning, infrastructure maintenance, and transit program promote safe and efficient movement of people and goods throughout the town. These objectives help to manage growth, meet infrastructure needs, and ensure we have complete communities and efficient mobility across the town. The total 2026 CIC growth operating budget is close to $116 million. When offset by fees and revenues from transit infrastructure planning, the total net program budget is $83.7 million, which represents 28% of the town's total net operating budget. Overall, the Community Infrastructure Commission budget has increased by $7.6 million over the 2025 budget, which represents a 10.1% increase. It should be noted that stormwater management costs have been separated into its own program for 2026, and the $22.3 million in operating is currently funded by the tax levy. If council chooses to implement the stormwater fee for 2026, these costs will be funded by the fee and removed from the tax levy. Director Vandenheiden illustrated that impact on the tax levy in his presentation earlier this week. Transit represents the largest impact with a total budget of $46 million, which increased by $5.5 million or 13.5%. The main driver of this increase are $2.8 million for capital and growth impacts for additional transit drivers and service personnel to support the delivery of transit. This includes an increased transfer to the transit fleet equipment reserve to support the future replacement needs of the additional fleet purchased in 2025. And there are also increases related to personnel and other inflationary increases contributing to $2.5 million. Infrastructure maintenance represents the second largest increase with $1.6 million or 5.8%. The largest driver is $0.9 million in capital and growth impact for costs associated with additional staffing and equipment to maintain new roads, sidewalk, streetlight infrastructure as the town grows and development comes on. This also includes increased transfer to work vehicles and equipment reserve, and other drivers include increase to contract services required for road pavement repairs, emergency services, pavement markings, traffic street lights, and winter control. Infrastructure planning and improvement. The 2026 net budget for infrastructure planning improvement is $3.5 million, resulting in an increase of about 11.5% from 2025. This reflects costs for the overall management, coordination, implementation of engineering planning, design, and construction of Oakville roads and stormwater infrastructure, as well as road corridor management, including permitting. The 2026 budget includes 2 new FTEs, senior liaison advisor and traffic safety specialist, as well as impact due to cancellation of the ASE program. While for asset management, inflationary and contractual increases on personnel are the main drivers. The new staffing request for 2026 support current service delivery and expansion of services. Under infrastructure planning, which is under the Transportation Engineering Department, there are two new positions. Traffic safety specialist is to support the ever-growing neighborhood traffic safety program and assist with daily inquiries through Service Oakville from speed concerns to traffic calming requests. The second position is a senior liaison advisor who will support the design and construction project for the Bronte and Kerr Street project. This position will be fully funded by the capital projects and is modeled based on the same positions from the highly successful Downtown Lakeshore reconstruction project. Under infrastructure maintenance, there is 1 new position, fleet coordinator, who is responsible for the procurement and disposal of equipment and vehicles. For Oakville Transit, there's 1 new position, transit electronic technician, who is responsible to maintain electronic devices on all transit fleet. Just like to note that this list doesn't include the staffing for stormwater management program, as it is currently not part of the base budget and pending council's decision on implementation of the stormwater fee. So we now move on to the capital budget overview. The 2026 Community Infrastructure Capital Program totals to $168.8 million, which represents 49% of the town's overall capital budget. The largest capital program in 2026 is infrastructure planning with $87.2 million. This includes $60.5 million to support growth projects including North Service Road, Wycroft Road, and Spear Road widening and AT projects. $16.4 million to support life cycle renewal of town right-of-way infrastructure, and $8 million to begin design for Bronte and Kerr Village streetscapes. The second largest 2026 capital program is for Oakville Transit, with $35.5 million. This includes $29.2 million for replacement, refurbishment, and addition of new fleet to support ongoing transit operations as well as expansion of new services. The infrastructure maintenance budget includes $32.1 million to support ongoing replacement vehicles, equipment, and traffic infrastructure, as well as minor roadways and sidewalk rehab works. I'd like to note that this year, the stormwater capital costs are shown in its own program, with $13.8 million identified in the 2026 for capital renewal projects. This is the existing base program level currently funded by the capital levy and the reserve. If the stormwater fee is approved to begin in 2026, these projects will be funded by the fee. Lastly, I would like to note that the townwide 2026 capital forecast map is now available on the 2026 budget website, which will help the public as well as council to see a visual representation of the capital budget for the town. The following 2 slides highlight some of the key capital project budgeted for 2026. Under growth management, we have a number of road widening projects that include active transportation infrastructure. For transit, we're planning for a total of 8 transit expansion buses for 2026. There will be 7 diesel conventional buses and 1 specialized electric bus. This will conclude our last purchase of e-buses through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program ICIP funding, bring our total e-bus fleet once delivered in the next 2-3 years to 74 buses, which represent approximately 50% of our fleet. Our neighborhood traffic safety program is split between growth management, primarily for PXO installation, and community belonging for traffic calming. Under environmental sustainability, there's 13.8 million of stormwater capital projects, which include Woodhaven Storm Sewer, Sheldon Creek Rehab, our Kendall Park shoreline, as well as various minor culvert, storm sewer, and ditch rehabilitation work. Also for transit, another 4.4 million is budgeted for the energy infrastructure, which is part of the 20-year, 58 million capital lease for charging infrastructure as part of the Oakville Transit Electrification Program. Under accountable government, we continue to perform various infrastructure condition assessments to inform future asset renewal decisions, as well as ongoing vehicle equipment replacements to support delivery of infrastructure maintenance as services. The following slides address some of the questions raised by Council as well as budget referrals. This request is number 7 in Appendix B for us to report on the costs and options for veteran memorial crosswalks. Based on our experience implementing the Pride crosswalk, the process to implement the veteran crosswalk will include an assessment of suitable locations based on operational, maintenance, and asset management principles. Further, we will consult with veteran organization and relevant community stakeholders on the crosswalk design to ensure a respectful and appropriate tribute. The cost to implement 3 crosswalks in the vicinity of the Bronte Cenotaph Memorial Park and Georgia Square is estimated to be $180,000. This request is number 20 in Appendix B for us to report on the efficiency levels and KPIs for Oakville Transit and the measure used to determine its effectiveness, including paying ridership and ridership by category, including free seniors and free youth. We have refreshed the transit KPI this year. You will find in the transit business plan outlining how the variety of KPIs are calculated and how they relate to each other. Today, I'm going to highlight 2 KPIs. On this graph, we have total boarding by fare type. This number represents all riders on the system, including transfers. This shows how many people are riding our bus, regardless if they pay or not. Starting from the left, following the purple line on the very top, you will see an increase of ridership from 2017 to 2019. Then we experienced COVID and only returned to pre-pandemic levels of ridership sometimes in the middle of 2023. Then, with the introduction of youth and senior ride free in May 2023, if you followed the black line, which is the 3rd line from the top, the youth ridership increased over 60% between 2023 and 2024. We also further introduced free transit for all registered caravan clients in May 2025, which we are seeing about a 20% increase when compared to the same period from last year, from January to August. So for 2025, we are forecasting the year to end with a total to reach over $5 million of boarding. 5 million, sorry, not dollars. 5 million ridership boardings for the whole system, representing an increase of approximately 3% over 2024. It is primarily driven by youth ridership increases. We expect ridership to continue to climb as we continue to improve and expand transit service levels. This growth demonstrates our commitment in providing excellent transit service that is convenient for Oakville residents. So from the last chart, we move into this subsidy of tax levy per ride. But it's important to note not everyone who rides our system pays. Riders who transfer on our system are free. And so the transit industry uses TAP ridership, not total ridership, the TAP ridership to estimate fare revenue. However, for Oakville, we can only consider adult TAP ridership to generate the revenue, as all other fare categories are free on the system. So with that said, we still operate the whole system, and the expenses and the cost to operate the system are not separated by fare types. So this chart shows tax levy per ride for conventional buses. It is calculated using the expense minus the revenue over the how much tap boardings that we have. Starting from the left, you will see that our subsidy per conventional ride was around $8. And ideally, we would like it to trend down, as you can see in 2029. Let's skip past COVID. So you will see that starting 2023, when we climb out of COVID, and that our subsidy per ride have increased from 2023 to 2025. The subsidy per ride have increased by 60% from 2024 to 2025, representing a 5.7%. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The subsidy per ride had increased by 60 cents from 2024 to 2025. That represents a 5.7% increase. The upward trend is primarily due to free transit for child, youth, and seniors. As the cost to operate the whole system for all the rider increases, the revenue collected is only limited to adults, thus increase the cost per ride for all users. Through our annual service planning process, budget, and asset management planning exercises, Oakville Transit continuously monitor and track key performance indicators to ensure we provide excellent customer experience and support the overall desire to make alternative modes of travel the mode of choice by providing convenient and efficient transit service. This slide covers request number 28 in Appendix B for us to report on the cost of Thomas, Trafalgar, and Dunn streetscape, which you can see highlighted in the red box. This slide also covers the budget referral number 32 under Appendix B, that the Budget Committee considered the future capital costs of the Bronte Village and Kerr Village streetscape studies through the 2026 budget process and identify street improvement priorities for the 10-year capital forecast. As part of the 2026 budget, we will be initiating the detailed design of Lakeshore Road on both Kerr and Bronte Village. This process will take close to 2 years. Then, the chart shows certain segment being part of the 10-year forecast that is primarily driven by asset management infrastructure needs to start construction. As part of the council consideration for 2026, there are 2 referral items related to the implementation of the stormwater fee, which has been addressed in Appendix K. 1, referral from the September 2029 council report for the consideration of the stormwater fee implementation to begin in 2026, and 2, item 18, which is options to mitigate the fee for businesses. You have heard from Director Vanderheiden on the potential impact to the tax increase with the implementation of the stormwater fee. What I'm going to cover today, though, is the capital program and the implementation aspect of the fee. First, tab 18 of the budget book has been added to this year to illustrate the stormwater management program, which consolidates the 2026 operating and capital cost. The 2026 budget currently includes operating costs of $2.3 million and $96.7 million in projects in the 10-year capital program. And it's shown as Table 1 of Appendix K. That is currently funded by tax levy and capital reserve. This $96.7 million is part of the base capital program. One of the considerations for implementation of the fee is the unfunded capital projects. So not included in the 2026 capital forecast are much needed improvements that were recommendations from Stormwater Master Plan, River Ring, drainage improvement studies, and harbor flood studies that are currently unfunded, totaling $91.2 million, which is shown in Table 2 of Appendix K over the 10-year period. Another consideration is the implementation timing of the fee. The September 29 report recommended a 3-year phase-in for the fee, starting at a 50% discount for both residential and non-residential sectors. An alternative option to mitigate the fee for businesses would be to phase the non-residential fee over 4 years, starting with a 75% discount illustrated in Chart 2 in Appendix K. This represents approximately the same amount of revenue to be collected through the fee as currently collected through property taxes. Further for council consideration is a request to include in the 2026 budget 7 additional staff, which will be 100% funded from the fee. These staff are required to support delivery of the expanded capital program, the credit program, fee billing administration, and inquiries, as well as ongoing 30-year capital plan development and asset management data upkeep. If the fee is to be implemented in 2026, as proposed, with a 3-year phase-in for residential and 4-year phase-in for non-residential, the revenue collected will be suffice to fund the $2.3 million annual operating budget and the total $187.9 million 10-year capital program, which allows for both state of good repair work as well as the resiliency improvements to proceed. This fee phase-in strategy will be sufficient over the long term and will not result in a negative reserve balance at the end of the 10-year period. If the fee is not approved in 2026, it will result in continual deferral of the resiliency improvement capital projects and the deferral of the 7 FTEs. Finally, the benefit of having a dedicated fee provides a long-term, sustainable source of revenue to fund critical infrastructure improvements to increase the town's resiliency to more frequent intense storms. The following 3 slides summarize the various requests or budget referrals pertaining to this commission. The director and myself are here and happy to answer any of these questions related to these list of requests. So before I move into my question period, I'm going to actually pass the baton to Director Venta Hiron to add a few more information related to stormwater fee, and we'll circle back to my questions after. Thank you.
So we figured it would be a good opportunity after Phoebe's presentation that touched on stormwater to just give a little bit more information to Budget Committee on the questions that were asked the other day about stormwater. So if I could have those extra slides brought up, and then I can walk council through just 2 slides for you to show some of the details. All right, so what we did here is we wanted to prepare this slide to help you as Budget Committee and the public to understand the impact for the implementation of a stormwater fee in 2026. So I will walk you through the different components of what's on the slide here. I would like to say that this slide has actually been adapted from one of the ones that Director Hewitson presented on September 29th when she came to talk about the stormwater program at council. And then what we've done is we've updated them with the numbers that we talked about on Tuesday. So in the far left column, we have 4 different unit types. We're going to focus on residential units for this slide based on the fee structure to flat fee structure. That makes these comparisons much easier. We also have a column for assessment value. Obviously, each property in town is assessed at a different amount, and that has a bearing on the impact it would have on each individual property. But we've shown the numbers here that were the similar ones to what was shown by Catherine in her presentation, so for consistency purposes. So that first gray column, that represents what the proposed tax increase being at 3.5%, and that's what I showed in the presentation on Tuesday. And so that reflects the existing level of stormwater support and includes the existing costs as being fully funded by the tax levy. And in addition, you'll remember in that situation, the capital reserve balance over our forecast does go below 0. So looking just as an example at that first line for a single detached home, the incremental tax that they would pay would be $292. However, if council approves the stormwater fee for this year and incorporates the changes that we talked about on Tuesday, we can reduce that amount, and that's what the next column shows. So that minus $122 reflects removing the operating costs from the budget, reducing the transfer to capital by $10 million to represent stormwater funding, and also increasing the capital levy by 0.75%. So once all of that is done, the next column shows what that impact would be, and that was at the 2.03% tax increase that I showed the other day. So again, for an owner of a single detached home, this would result in $170 in incremental taxes, which is just $292 minus that $122. Then we would need to add on the stormwater fee for the year, and that's at the 50% discount, and that would bring the total to $307, which you can see in that second gray column. That's what a home in this situation would pay. And so the final column, called difference, just shows the difference between those two amounts, the two gray columns. And as you can see, for the single detached, it's a slight increase of $15, but for the other types of properties, it would actually be a slight decrease. It's not huge amounts either way, but there is some decrease for those homeowners. And I'd also like to point out that in addition to these being based off of average assessments, so you have to keep in mind every property would be in a unique situation, it's also important to remember that about 45% of the units across town, so this is units, not properties, but units, are in that higher medium density. Those are the three bottom rows. Only about 55% are in that top category. So that's at the 50% phase in, and I did want to remind council and the public about one other thing that Commissioner Fu just talked about. The staff report on September 29th highlighted the fact that we also need to increase the amount of work we do on stormwater, so we need to move to a higher level of service. In order to do this, we need to move from the current levels of a program that on average cost us about $12 million a year to a program that would cost us, again, on average about $24.4 million a year. And so the proposed stormwater fees, when fully implemented, that's when all the phasing in is done, those would reflect that level of service. So the slide in front of you shows what the impact would be on the 2026 budget if we move to that level of service right away. I'm not suggesting that we do that. We just wanted to illustrate what that impact would be on the tax levy. And you can see that in that first gray column there, if we added the impact of that full $24.4 million program, the tax increase would go up to 5.41%, which would be an increase of $452, again, for a single detached in this situation. And then you can compare that to what a tax increase at 2.03% would be, plus a full stormwater fee, so at 100% phase-in. And that increase would be $443, which is it's actually a decrease of $9. So again, it's actually a slight decrease, but it's a very small amount of difference. And the fact that it's a decrease is actually in keeping with the principles of the stormwater program, as generally speaking, residential properties generate far less runoff than non-residential properties relative to the assessment. So we did want to share this information with Budget Committee. We do hope it's helpful for you. And so now maybe Chair Adams, I'll turn it back to you to take questions on Phoebe's presentation.
Okay, before we do that, on these two slides, if you can keep that up for just a second, there's one minor issue that I think that needs to be corrected in this, which is that the 2.03% includes an additional 0.75 increase of the capital levy, which is not included in the 3.5%.
Correct.
And so to be apples to apples, you would need to change the 2.03 to 1.7.
Correct, yeah, if you took that part out, yeah.
Could you restate these two slides and provide them on that basis so that members of council can understand the direct impact of just the stormwater?
We can send that.
Separate that issue of, hey, we need to deal with our reserve levels?
To you, Chair Adams, we can certainly do that. I can email them out to the members of council.
That would be, I think that would be really helpful to everybody. Well, let's go, I don't think we need to recess. We can go to the questions for all the other stuff, and maybe while we're answering questions on transit and other things, maybe Jonathan would have time to restate those. I don't know how fast he can do that, but.
The questions related to
Oh, I know there are puzzled faces, which is why I would like to give our Director of Finance a little bit of time to recorrect and make sure he's got those numbers. So if you can hold the questions on stormwater, I know there are some questions about transit and stuff that have come up. And so I'd like to go to those, and then we'll come back to the stormwater. So I know I've got at least 4 members of council here who have questions, and I'm hoping some of those will be on other topics. So I've got Councillor O'Meara, Dudek, Giddings, and Hazlitt Thiel on my list here. And so to the extent that we're not talking about stormwater to start with, we'll go to those, and then we'll come back to the stormwater ones. Okay? Councillor O'Meara?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so not talking stormwater. Are the traffic calming and PXOs, is that going to be impacted by the lack of revenue from ASE and, speed cameras and the revenue there? What are going to be the impacts of us not collecting any fees for our traffic calming impact? Does that just switch on to the tax levy then? Or what's the impacts of the cancellation of that program on our traffic calming?
So through you, Chair Adams, it wouldn't have impact to our program. We average have neighborhood traffic safety have a program about $5 million a year. It was always been part of the overall tax levy and is part of the capital reserve. So it wouldn't have impact with the cancellation of the ASC.
So what were we doing with any revenue we were getting from the speed cameras then?
Through the ASC revenues, once we have it, we were going to fund the neighborhood traffic safety program. Say we have $2 million revenue, we have a $5 million program, then it just means there will be lesser impact to the tax levy by $2 million. So it was just going to be an alternative funding source that will provide more room for the overall tax, the capital reserve.
So I guess that was my question then. So there is an impact because let's say we have $2 million then that now has to go on the tax levy that was going to be funded before. My apologies.
Yeah, so there will be impact. However, maybe I misspoke. There's no impact to the program. Like, we're not decreasing our program down to $3 million. It's still going to be always a $5 million program. It's just that our funding source, we eliminated the ASE funding source, which means it will be just heavier impact to the overall tax levy.
Right, so it's just, so rather than the speeders paying for it, now it's the general tax levy. Okay,
correct.
I just wanted to correct that.
Sorry about that.
No problem. With regards to our coastal resiliency, have we mapped out our shoreline needs and our any seawalls, or do we know what we need to do in terms of ensuring that our coastal shoreline is where it needs to be in order to be protected from climate change and these sorts of things?
Yes, through you, Chair Adams. So when we had the major flood that was experienced a few years back, the departments through with parks, we did a Build Back Better plan. So the entire shoreline, we have looked at the impacts of those, what we need to, I'll say, build back better. Most of the work actually has been done in terms of building the seawalls a little higher, or certain places need to be increased. Then complemented by that, our asset management group also look at the entire assessment of all our shorelines. So then we regularly have these updates, and then that's part of the 10-year capital program.
So we have a number in there of, and again, this is a two-part question. We have a number in there of what we need to spend to ensure our coastal resiliency on public lands, but also do we look at private lands as well on the lake?
So you, Chair Adam, we do not look at privately owned shorelines. We only look at our publicly owned shoreline to ensure we are ensuring there's coastal resiliency. And this whole program is also part of the stormwater fee, because shoreline is part of the stormwater fee asset.
So the shoreline is a part of the stormwater fee then?
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting. And then my last question has to do with the crosswalk fees. I was gobsmacked that it's $180,000 for 3 crosswalks. Looking at municipalities from Oshawa, from Guelph, from Whitby. I mean, none of them seem to be spending more than $8,000 on a crosswalk. Is there an Oakville surcharge that I'm unaware of that it would cost $60,000 for a crosswalk when Aurelia is $13,000? I mean, I'm gobsmacked at the price that we're paying to paint some crosswalks.
So give me 1 second.
So through Chair Adams, the price of the crosswalk also includes, because we haven't done a full assessment of the areas or locations. It does include the pavement markings, but it also includes any possible improvements to the infrastructure around the crosswalk. So that's why the cost is that much. We put in a contingency for that because we haven't done the assessment to date in terms of, say, for example, the concrete around there, or whether we would include as part of the improvement some of the tactile strips or AODA requirements. You know, we do try to minimize all of the impacts, so through this, we would improve the crosswalks to make sure it complies with our AOD standards. So there is a level of contingency there, but again, we just haven't done the assessment as of yet, as this was a new budget request.
Well, and I appreciate that, but this council's got to make a decision. And this council is hoping that we've got some accurate numbers so we can make an educated decision on this. And if the contingencies, again, you know, Pickering put in 2 this year, and combined it was $33,000 for 2. So those numbers are so far out of whack with what, and that's going to influence a decision that we have to make in the next month. So are we going to get some accurate estimates on what it actually cost so we can make an educated decision on whether to move forward with that?
Of course. Through you, Chair Adams, we based the estimate based on the Pry crosswalk that we completed. That was cost us $43,000, and that was the actual cost. So then at $43,000 for one price crosswalk times 3, so that's where you see. And then Lynn mentioned a bit of contingency, but it's an actual cost that we based it on the Pry crosswalk.
Okay, well, we need to get new estimates then, because I don't know who we're getting to do the work in Oakville, but apparently they're doing work in other places that is absolutely so much cheaper and affordable than what we're paying for actual crosswalks in Oakville. So anyway, if we can look into that and get back to the committee or get back to council on what real costs are. People want this, but for the price of $60,000 at a crosswalk, I would have a real hard time going and telling my residents it was worth every dollar we spent. So thank you, Chair Adams.
Okay. Councillor Dudek, do you have other questions? Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The request that you indicated towards the latter part of your presentation, when will we get the responses or the answers to those?
Oh, through you, can we put back the presentation just to make sure we're...
Yep.
So they are in the package that you have received for this council, for this budget committee. So I just want to make sure we're... So here,
Yeah, the questions I think I asked recently was referred to coming to this meeting.
Oh, I see. My apologies. So, Councillor Dudek, I understand that you have several questions related to transit KPIs. That is not, we didn't have it for this particular meeting. My apologies.
Okay.
So we are gathering all the transit, I'll say KPIs from the free or no free and the days, 1 day versus 2 days. All of those different requests are going to come back to Council on November 24th or 7th. We're just confirming that.
I think it's the 27th meeting.
Thank you very much. Sorry, sir. So November 27th meeting, you will have, similar to the way we do appendix, we'll write up all the questions and we'll have all the stats and the datas in there.
Super, thank you very much. Other question relating to transit. You mentioned the TAP. For youth, I thought they had to have Presto in order to be free. Is that not correct?
That's correct. So
would they not tap their Presto card to indicate that? And like you mentioned, it was just adults that we were securing information regarding TAP. And I guess my question was, with the youth, why wouldn't we have that same information through TAP?
Actually, you're completely correct. If I misspoke, I apologize. We make everyone tap. So
That's
then
what
the
I
youth have
thought.
to tap. So we do have data for the youth in terms of how
Okay.
they tap. We just don't get revenue for them. So we
No, of
only
course
get
not.
Yeah, we get the adult revenue. And so what you'll see in that lovely graph earlier is that's how we use to figure out how much youth is taking our bus. We're just not getting any fair tap revenue. That's the only difference. When I speak revenue, I can only speak of adults, but we know and we will be able to use all the tap to analyze all the questions that you have.
Perfect.
So we'll know exactly how many people is riding our bus.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Giddings?
Thank you, Chair, through you. Further to the transit question, Councillor Duddick had made the request earlier. Is it possible to break out the to and from school, the morning and afternoon, and separate the number of taps for the lunch time period?
Yes, we could take a look at our school specials and the lunch specials, and then to understand how many people is taking those buses.
Much appreciated. There was a item e-scooter implementation review. Could you provide a little more information on that?
Oh, yes, of course, through Chair Adams. That is one of the recommendations from the Transportation Master Plan that we recently came to Council. And we originally were going to look at an implementation review of 3 years, but through Council's direction, we're going to finish that review in 1 year. And that review itself would look at where are e-scooter allowed, where they're not allowed, what are the rules related to where they are on our infrastructure, as well as how we deal with the pilot program that the ministry has available for us. And we'll look at things like enforcement and obviously the overall promotion and education about who like age and helmets and all that lovely stuff. So it's actually the whole gamut of looking at e-scooter for the 2026, so we could come back to Council with a recommendation as to what we're doing about them.
Thank you. So the first step would be at the trial in whatever area that is decided to be implemented?
So in the 2026 plan, we're going to look at all on paper. We wouldn't be doing a trial. It would be just say are we allowed them on multi-use path, or do we not allow them on multi-use paths? It's more about the decision of opting into the pilot or not opting into the pilot, what rule we follow, what bylaws we want to pass, what kind of promotion program we want to do. And very likely in 2027, that's where the trial, if we choose to do any third-party vendor type of thing that like Mississauga and others, that's when we'll start to look at it in 2027, but that's not in 2026.
All right, and the last question, Lakeshore Road East. Just curious at what stage we are, whether it be design or looking forward to possible construction.
Can you, be more specific about Lakeshore East, which segment?
Lakeshore East between downtown and Winston Churchill.
Okay.
Through Chair Adams, so for that particular project, we are coming back in 2026 for the public information meeting to provide our results of the study, and it has been identified in the 10-year capital forecast to start design in 2027.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, very good. Councillor Hazelfield?
Thank you, through you, Chair Adams. Jonathan is working on those charts. I'm hoping there'll also be a chart for business, the business impact for stormwater. I just say that up front in case they can squeeze it in the next few minutes. So I have some questions just further on transit. And thank you to Councillor Giddings and others for their questions on this. So in terms of identifying what we receive back from other sources, not actually the rider, but any other sources that are contributing to the fare revenue would be appreciated in the report. And I would respectfully ask that if that could be provided to us in a memo in advance of the November 24th meeting, we're basically at decision time, and receiving that, that close to that time, given the magnitude of the investment we have to make and are considering continuing to make in transit, it would be helpful to receive that well in advance of that meeting. Turning my mind to ASC.
Councillor, I'm just going to hold you for just a second. Jane?
Through you, Councillor Adams. We hear your request for the earlier information. We will do our best. The agenda actually goes out on November the 20th, I think, the Thursday before. So we will definitely have it by then. I just caution you to say there's a fair amount of work to pull together for those times. We'll do our best. But at minimum, you'll have it 7 days in front of that meeting.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I want to just turn back to ASC and thank Councillor O'Meara for some of his earlier questions. I understand we're under a contract for ASC for our cameras. Can you, whether today or in a memo, identify for us what is the implications on our having to cancel that contract and any financial obligations that includes?
So yes, through you, Councillor Adams, we'll provide that in a memo.
Okay, thank you. Given that we've had an ongoing commitment to over $5 million in neighborhood traffic calming efforts, and now we may have to shift gears a bit, can someone report what are the number of outstanding PXOs and traffic calming requests that are unfunded in 2026, so that we understand what is coming in 27, 28, 29?
Okay. Yeah, no problem. We'll take a look at that in terms of unfunded future locations.
Because one of the frustrations of the public is many are grateful for all the hard work that's been done on neighborhood traffic calming, and Imran and his team, try very, very hard for to meet needs, but it can take more than 18 months to get traffic calming in place. And so we've got to look, we need to understand, are we unfunding something that we need the province to step up and give us the money for? I wanted to also understand that just in terms of the position request for a fleet coordinator,
Yes.
how do we coordinate the fleet now if we don't have a fleet coordinator?
That's a very good question. Through you, Chair Adams. So the purchase of all our fleets was currently being done by the manager of fleet, and it really through the review of our workforce planning, it is important to have the manager do what the manager needs to do, which it has a big portfolio, including stores, and not just worrying about buying and purchasing equipment. So that's why there's a need to foundationally have a fleet coordinator as we continue to grow as Oakville and the amount of fleet that we're also buying and disposing on a yearly basis.
Okay, thank you. And then the position senior liaison, can you just fill in a little more detail on what the role is going to accomplish?
Yes, of course. So this is mirrored to the liaison person that we had during the Lakeshore, downtown Lakeshore work. So we're starting this position earlier during the design stage. We would like to have a robust communication and public engagement plan for Bronte and Kerr. So through the design phases, we'll take a look at the design. Sometimes you get into the details. It could be the furniture, it could be the pavers, or there's a lot of details with access and things like that. So we would like someone who's dedicated to essentially be that public liaison. I will put that as the key reason to ensure that we are always communicating and on top of the coordinating with the BIAs and the councillors and the residents and the stakeholders.
Okay, and fully understand the value of that, having gone through Lakeshore. You may want to talk to Councillor Giddings and I about some opportunities on that job description.
Sure.
And you're saying you need that in this, in 2026? And can you just confirm that's on the operating side, not on the capital side?
So actually, through you, Chair Adams, that particular position we funded by the capital projects.
Okay.
So it's not on the tax levy. So the total capital project, say, I forgot the number, will include this position being funded during the duration of the capital project.
So I thought that's what you meant.
Yes.
So it is not, in your presentation, it's not an impact on the operating. So of the 3 headcounts that you are asking for, 4, only 3 of them are going to hit the operating? Do I understand that correctly?
Correct. I'm just going to get the list up just to make sure. I believe the answer is correct. Yes, that's the only one that's coming out of, yes. So traffic safety specialist, coordinator fleet, senior liaison officer, and Oakville Transit electronic technician. Only the senior liaison advisor will be funded from capital, and the other 3 are hitting the operating.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And Councillor Listrina? No. No, you are. I'm giving you the floor.
Thank you. Apologies, Councillor Nanda. You're next. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the presentation, Commissioner Fu. With respect to the Oakville Transit, I know everybody's got questions on that. I'm curious about other municipalities our size, whether it's total boardings or TAP ridership. I'm really not sure what sort of which way to compare. But I am curious if we are an outlier or are we on par with other municipalities with respect to the experience of ridership? Not experience individually, but just overall in those numbers. So I would like some information on that in that appendix when it's coming. That would be great. With respect to the buses, the EV fleet, the question is specific regarding environmental sustainability. What is our policy with respect to, do we use EV buses whenever they're charged and possible to be on the road? Or do we still use, I realize you're getting the fleet coordinator coming, but currently is it every time an EV is available, it is being used or not?
Yeah, so sorry, through Councillor Adam, just the fleet coordinator is for roads and works, so it's not related to transit. I just want to clarify that. We have a complement of our fleet, so right now if it's 30 EV fleet and the rest are conventional diesel, they are being used all the time. As soon as they're charged overnight.
So they're the workhorses then?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we use the whole complement of our fleet to service the entire Oakville Transit. So there's generally no, unless they're in maintenance, then
Okay.
every single bus is being used at all times.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, one more
Go
thing.
ahead.
I just wanted clarification because when Councillor O'Meara was talking about the PXOs and just for my understanding, Councillor Adams and I have a PXO coming on Grand. I've noticed there was a lot of work done at an intersection of each of the curbs completely replaced, put with AODA. So I would like to know if that actually is part of that whole PXO, so that will make me more comfortable in knowing what those numbers mean. So wherever you're answering that question later, if you could just use that as an example.
Through Chair Adams, that is the intent, is that for the locations that are chosen for the veteran crosswalks, we would bring up the surrounding infrastructure up to standards, so including AODA, et cetera. So that is the reason for the additional cost on top of the estimate that we have for the Pride crosswalk pavement marking.
Okay, because that was a significant job done there, so that's why
Yes.
that would be making sense. Thank you.
Okay, and now Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, Chair Adams. And thank you, Phoebe, for the presentation. Hope you feel better soon. Just in terms of, and I know we've had many conversations on this, thank you for the report on the snow removal. I know that Director Sam and I have had that conversation. Could he maybe just clarify the difference between this report of snow removal versus windrow clearing? Because we did discuss that there would be some confusion on that.
Through you, Chair Adams, thank you for that question. The difference here is specific with the snow windrow removal. We are looking just at this point, Ward 7, and looking at removal of the snow in those areas where there's no storage room between the homes. So that's what we're looking at for that report. The windrow report is a little bit different. That is to remove the actual windrow, which is at the bottom of the curb, not the storage areas between homes or lot lines. This is not what was intended. So they are two different programs. I just want to make sure that I clarify that for you.
So in terms of that, and I appreciate that you did this report for Ward 7, but would you be able to see how that would work for town-wide? Because obviously if this is a program that we implemented, we would need it to be town-wide, although obviously the difference is the level of density we have up there is very different from the south. But as we saw from the snowstorm last year, there was a number of safety issues with regards to the impact that snow had in our ward, and sightline issues and roads being where two cars could not even pass one another. So if this program could not be implemented and we did have a storm like we did last year, what would we do in terms of level of service if there was safety issues and sightline issues?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Again, Councillor Hernanda, the differentiation here is, again, for a significant weather event, we have now a significant weather event protocol. So that will allow us to make sure that we are looking at select areas for snow removal if required. So that's now step one. When it comes to how we found, again, the significant event was very, very strong. It was 65 plus centimeters. When we look at what we do normally, I think in normal snow events, we found that we still will remove as needed, residential south of Dundas, for instance, only at corners if required. That's something that we'll do when we have sufficient buildup of snow. And similarly, north of Dundas, I think we would also do the same thing for sight lines and so forth. Now, for your question specific about the two passing lanes, what we ended up doing is, again, because of the significant weather event, we had to do one pass to just get emergency vehicles and fire through. And then we continue to make sure that we remove so that there's sufficient two passing lanes. When that happens, that's going to be in significant events no matter what, and it will also happen to make sure in normal events that that's done. Your question is very interesting, because if we look at the town-wide, we always find that it's north of Dundas that's a little bit more of a challenge. South of Dundas did not seem to be a big challenge. Again, only select areas were looked at, and they were very minimal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Director Sam. I appreciate the clarification. My other question is just on transit. And again, there's been some bus routes and there's been some conversation with the school boards along 6th line. And I know we've asked in the past, what impact would it be if we added a bus that goes straight along 6th line from the south all the way to the north? And I think this question keeps coming up because there is a school which is not technically in the boundary of the north, but many students who go to that school, and there's been questions from the school board of whether we could provide transit or whether they could. So I'm wondering, has Director Adrian been able to speak to the school board about how that could work?
Thank you for that. Through you, Chair Adams. Staff have reached out to the school board and have started the process of data collection. It is really important to understand where the students are coming from so that we can look at what resourcing it would take to provide that type of service to that school. So I've been informed that staff have made that contact, and we are waiting for those data sets to come in so that we can have a planned service and identify what will be required to provide it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think the school board should know that if they're allowing students to come from the north, that they should, try to provide the transportation. Because it's just the way that they put the boundaries. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McNeese.
Thank you.
And then Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Adams, and thank you for the presentation, and hope you're feeling a bit better as well. Just a quick question on transit and ridership. It's great that we're getting the data on the student ridership, and I obviously understand there's no actual fare collection, but does any of that data help us with the gas tax rebates? Because I guess it's a grant. My understanding is as ridership goes up in a municipality, the formula for the amount that we get through the gas tax or whatever that community fund is called now increases as well.
Through you, Chair Adams. So the Ontario gas tax is partially based on ridership. I think it's 30% on ridership and 70% on population. But I also believe that that is your share of the total ridership across the province. So it's a percentage of a percentage. So I think one of our staff reports has the breakdown in it from Tuesday. I couldn't pull it up that quickly, but it might be in there.
Okay.
And Matt might know better than I.
I think it's provincial.
Through you, Chair Adams. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So it isn't a direct relationship with riders and dollars because it is a fixed pot that the province has. So we get a share of that pot. It's been about 0.75% for years. So it is 70% ridership and it's a 5-year average. So it will take time and it's incremental. Whether we get more or not depends on everyone else's ridership across the province.
Okay, so this may have sounds like a minuscule the impact by offering the free ridership to especially the students.
That's right. It depends on everyone else. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. My next question's on the crosswalk, so not a transit question. But just to be clear on the 3 proposed veterans crosswalks, you're proposing those in your budget package, so not as an add-on that would be added to the tax base. Is that right?
Oh, through you, Chair Adam, no. So that's a councillor request. So currently it's not in the base.
I see.
So that is a decision per Councillor O'Meara need to be saying it has to be made by the budget committee whether they want to add it or not. It's not currently in.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Okay, Councillor Chisholm, and then Councillor Knoll.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Adams. Question for Phoebe. With respect, can we go back to the slide with the number of PXOs that you've completed up to 2025? Could we get that? I don't know what numbers. I apologize.
28. Oh, it's not scrolling. I can't. Sorry, it's not scrolling.
Do you know which slide number it is? Phoebe?
5.
There we go.
28. There's
28 possibly?
Yeah.
Oh.
So in 2025, Councillor Chisholm, or 2026 you're looking for?
No, I think in your, I don't know, it's a KPI, but your total metrics was, I think you had up to 2025. Here we go. Hold on, no, that's not it.
There you go, 28.
28. Okay. With respect to the new PXOs, are they, I'm trying to understand, they're not necessarily all overhead PXOs with the lights and flashing and so forth. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have different types of PXOs, so there's different levels.
Okay. Is it possible that we can separate out the PXOs that have the overhead flashing lights and the cost associated with that, and then separate out the PXOs, which I would assume are just markings or paintings on the roadway for the public? Because the PXOs, when you have overheads, takes a lot. It's very substantial funding for that, and it takes time. So I just want to make sure that we have a separation out. Can we do that through you, Chair Adams, to the staff? Can we do that, separate that out?
Yes, for sure. We could separate out the different type of PXOs and the cost associated with them.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions on different areas. First of all, on transit, as we're preparing this data with respect to the free transit program for seniors and youth, the data is going to be mostly, I imagine, that you're collecting financial and statistical. I'm wondering have we been collecting any anecdotal data in terms of the social impacts of providing these services to these particular groups in our community?
Through you, Chair Adams. So sorry.
I feel you.
Yeah, sorry.
I've been dealing with that myself.
I sound horrible today. No, we have not gathered any social impact type of data. We do our regular surveys for our service planning, but certainly through the ridership data, even though there's stats, it really goes to show that we're trying to promote the younger generation to take transit, and we can see the fact that they are now really using it with that 60% increase. So I think there is the long-term longevity where we talk with council when it was first introduced, that hopefully if they take transit when they're young, they will continue to take transit when they get older. So we don't have any tangible data set or surveys related to the social impact, but certainly I think the stats does tell the story.
Do you know if there's any such data available through, is it CADO? Is that the name of the organization?
CUDA?
Yeah, CADO. Is there any anecdotal data available through those organizations about municipalities that have had these sorts of programs?
We will take a look. Most of them are stats, though, that we're used to, but we'll take a look to see if they have any sort of social impact type of indicators.
Good. My concern is, as this comes back for discussion, again, I want to make sure that we're not just looking at the dollars and the numbers. I want to make sure we're looking at what the impacts that these programs are having in our community. Because it's not, this is a budget process. I understand that we're voting on dollars, but every dollar spent has a story behind it, and I'd like to know more about that as we go forward. Secondly, moving transit, this is a quasi question, transit/snow. I've talked to you and to staff about the impacts of snow removal programs not being connected on bus stops and on regular routes. So much so that along Trafalgar last year during that major snow event, there were, nice clear sidewalks, but there was no way to get to the road. I know there was some contractual considerations on this. Has there been any progress on that? And what's the plan for this year?
So actually, that was one of the accomplishments, is that we did now combine the snow plowing of the transit stop with the snow plowing of the sidewalks. Is now under one contract. So therefore, we won't have one person plow and leave the windrow to the other person, and we have to call the other person to come and get rid of the other person's windrow, and they just keep on throwing windrow at each other. Yeah. So the idea is that one contractor will go and clear the sidewalk and the bus stops at the same time. So then once it's cleared, it's all accessible. So that is something, one of the efficiencies I mentioned that we accomplished for this year. And so this winter, that's what will happen.
I think when I read it, I think it said sidewalk and shelters.
Yeah, so the bus
Yeah,
stops.
but not all of them have shelters, and in fact, most of them don't. So I'm concerned about the bus stops that don't have shelters.
Oh, I see. Just kidding. Bus stops.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor No. So it is the bus pads, and not including and not including shelters.
Perfect.
So that's going to be the answer, and it is better coordination. And through one contract, maybe different sources.
And that will be happening this year?
It starts this year. We met with the contractors already.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Just gentle pushback on something that was said a few moments ago about special considerations in Ward 7 versus other wards. I mean, Ward 5, and I don't know specifically about other wards in these regards. We have similar issues. So when you say special considerations in Ward 7, I certainly, from the Ward 5 perspective, you should say 7/5, because we also have laneway communities and we have snow storage removal issues, et cetera. So I don't want that to be overlooked going forward, because I was on the phone with the whole team last year frequently about removing the vast quantities of snow from my 2 laneway communities that are dramatically impacted as much as Ward 7 is.
Actually, through you, Chair Adam, this is a very good question, and I'd like to provide some clarity. So we, in our existing service levels, we already have laneway snow removal as our base service level. So any laneway products, we have, first we do the plow, then we do the snow removal, and then we try to time it back to back now, so then we're much more efficient in terms of not leaving the laneway folks stranded. What appendix right in front of me. What Appendix C does is service level in addition to our base. So the reason why I only looked at a focus in Ward 7 is that the difference is this is looking at when you're not a laneway product, you're just a normal single detached product, but they're very close by, and then there's barely any room between driveways to pile that snow for storage. And that is the review of Appendix C, to remove that big pile of snow in the, I'll say, the grassy areas between the sidewalks and the road. Okay. So that's a little different. So I definitely don't want to have others feel that we missed the service level we already uphold for laneways, because that's already part of the base.
Thank you for that, but I just want to be clear that I've been pushing for additional resources for snow removal, because it becomes a major problem in these poorly designed laneway communities, the precursor to Ward 7 laneway communities that have less than 0 snow storage space. So I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that the current service level of snow removal, not snow plowing, I mean, I understand that, but the removal of the snow becomes extraordinarily problematic. And I'm not trying to dismiss other wards. I just don't know yours as intimately as I know the ward that Councillor Grant and I share. The problem in Morrison Village and Oak Park in particular is very problematic. And by the time you have that second snowfall, there's no movement available whatsoever. So I just want to make sure that that's top of mind. That's my gentle pushback on that one. So when you're saying special consideration for those sort of issues in Ward 7, please consider enhancements in Ward 5 as well, because those are considerable challenges for us.
I was just going to add, through you, Chair Adams, that the appendices in the report really is giving you an idea of the cost of the snow removal. So it was just done on the basis of Ward 7. Just as you say for Ward 5, I think Ward 6 north of Dundas as well has the same implication.
Right. Okay, thank you. So that was all I really wanted to do there, is just to make it top of mind, not particularly advocating for more specific dollars at the moment, but as you're considering it, let's take that into consideration. On the crosswalk issue, I agree with Councillor O'Meara. The $180,000 seems astronomical, and I'm wondering if, first of all, I'm looking forward to seeing that those numbers may be revisited and give us a clear indication of what the real numbers are versus what the contingency is. But also, have we considered other opportunities such as sponsorships? I know we have a sponsorship policy corporately. I wonder if we have thought about applying that sort of opportunity to this, because I imagine that something as I guess widely supported as remembering our veterans would be something I think there would be interested corporate, as in potentially even individuals, maybe even the community foundation, some of their funds might be interested in participating as well to offset the impact on taxpayers.
Let us, through Chair Adams, let us take a look at the corporate sponsorship policy and then, and obviously provide the breakdown of the 180 as well and report back.
Okay, thank you very much. And also potentially, I don't know whether paint is an expensive part of this, but maybe even a paint supplier might be willing to contribute something. I think look outside the box on this. This isn't your typical crosswalk. This is for recognizing a component of our community that deserves recognition. I think that there would be those be willing to vote with their pocketbooks in terms of philanthropy in supporting this. Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. It was excellent.
Okay, before I go back to Councilor O'Meara, just on the issue of the snow removal zones, my read of the report was that, it covers part of Ward 6 north of Dundas, but it wasn't 100% clear to me with respect to whether it was including only the assumed roads within north of Dundas, or whether it included the unassumed areas, or whether we were going to grow into the unassumed areas as they got assumed. What's the proposal there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is supposed to be at this point for the assumed, and we did put language to say that, again, this will be revised, of course, as we take on more assumptions.
So is Zone 2 largely unassumed? So there's the purple area, and then there's the, I'll call it orangey area that's part of Ward 6. The Ward 6 area, I think, is entirely unassumed, I think at this point still. The purple area may be mostly unassumed. Is that true?
No, some of these, we do winter maintenance at this point because they are ready and until the full assumptions. So there is some that we are completing. But largely, this is the area that we are currently providing winter maintenance service.
Maybe, sorry, I'll clarify. There's two stages. There's acceptance and then there's assumption. So then typically winter maintenance starts after acceptance, which is the earlier step before assumption. So assumption is when we take it all over, but then during the time of when the road is actually functioning, it's unassumed, it still belongs to the developer, but we start taking over winter maintenance. And because this is a winter maintenance snow removal appendix, so then we consider anywhere that we are doing winter maintenance is where we will look at snow removal.
Okay, so the report uses the word assumed, and so you're saying that there's actually a slightly different point of beginning this process?
Thank you, Chair Adams. So for largely, this is, I would say at this point, it might be the acceptance, and I would need to perhaps revise that and make some clarity in terms of differentiating both.
Okay, so that clarification would be helpful, I think.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor O'Meara, and then back to Councilor Hassett-Thiel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering if we're ready to tackle the stormwater stuff.
We do have new slides, so if you've got questions on other stuff, then go ahead.
No, I'm ready for stormwater.
You're ready, Councilor Hassett-Thiel? Are you ready for? There's a whole bunch of people who want to talk about stormwater. Councilor Hassett-Thiel, do you have questions on other stuff?
I just want to recognize that probably one of the precursors for some of the Ward 6 and Ward 7 were some of the buildings and homes in Clearview that have a similar challenge. So I appreciate Councillor Knoll referencing that, we have to have a broad lens on this as well. They're not a significant number, but there are individuals that regularly call in saying, overloaded, no place to put it, who's taking it away? I can't take it away because I'm 83 is usually ends up where we are. So I just wanted to reference that, and then I will then wait patiently now for stormwater.
Okay, looks like we're ready for the updated slides. If we want to hand the podium back over, that would be great, and take it away.
Thanks, Chair Adams. So we just need a minute so our IT folks can pull up the slideshow again. And full disclaimer, if you do the math with a calculator later and I got it wrong, my apologies.
Jonathan, the floor is yours. Thank you for the quick mathematical work in the background while we went through all those other questions. It's very appreciated.
Thanks, Chair Adams. So what I'll do is I'll explain what changes we made and then just what the impact is. So the first few columns in this chart are the same as they were a little while ago. What we've done now is removed that increase to the capital levy from that removal of stormwater costs column. And then doing so results in that tax increase change being 1.7%, 1.70% instead of the 2.03%. And then when you add that to the stormwater fee, you get a revised total increase for residents for 2026. And it does show a difference. And obviously the number is lower if you take out that capital levy increase. And again, the numbers are not overly significant. That's an annual number, but they are a decrease for residential properties. I would just add the one caution on here that the reason that the capital levy was increased in that one proposal was to address the concerns on our capital reserve, which would still remain in this situation. So that would also need to be addressed. And then on the second slide, hopefully this still works. There we go. So similar information. It just shows obviously a much larger, I think that was -9 last time, and now the number is -37. And again, this is not anything staff is proposing to put the full $24.4 million program in. This is just if you were to put it all in the taxes, what would it be compared to the full fee? So just to give everybody a sense of that magnitude. So I don't know if you want me to go back to the previous one, if that would be helpful, just to keep it on screen.
Yeah, if you want to keep the other slide on screen, I think that would be helpful. And then Councillor
There we
O'Meara.
go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And Councillor Haslett-Thiel started pulling on the thread I wanted to pull on. I mean, the largest impact that this is going to have is on the business. Why do we not have the numbers on how this is going to impact businesses in front of us?
Through you, Chair Adams. So we pulled this together late yesterday just to be able to show the impact for residential, because much of our most of our properties are residential properties, and that's how we view the tax levy increase. Keep in mind that each non-residential property is unique both in terms of the value of the assessment, the size of the property for the calculation of a stormwater fee, because it's based on the size, as well as the tax class that it's in. We did have some examples through Catherine's presentations, and I think she has some anecdotal numbers too, or at least some information that we could share. It's not available on a slide, but it is unique to each property, so it's a lot more challenging to demonstrate simply.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be today, but I wouldn't mind seeing something in front of us that we can sink our teeth into. I had a conversation with Ford at the leaders' reception last week, and if you want to talk about absolutely disappointed businesses in town about what we're doing, go no further than the auto industry, who's already getting hammered, and they look at this as just, you know, they're awestruck with what we're doing here. So I'd like to have some numbers in front of us because I don't want to do a single thing that pushes businesses out of Oakville. And I think we're down a path where we're incentivizing businesses to say I'm not going to tolerate this any longer. So I'd like to see some numbers at some point where we look at some random assessments and just get a scope of the change in their costs that we're going to be looking at. Thank you.
Okay, any others? Councillor Janet Haslett-Thiel, your hand is up now, go ahead.
Thank you. My apologies for the delay. So I just want to make sure I understand the 0.75. So we have a 1.75 capital levy. That 0.75 is the taking additional stormwater projects into the capital levy?
So through you, Chair Adams, if you can indulge me for a second, I'm going to go to the slides that I showed the other day, if that's okay.
Yep, indulge away.
So what we have on the screen in front of you is these are all the stormwater related impacts to the property tax levy increase. So the $10 million figure that's on the fourth line down there, that represents the average spend on stormwater that we would remove from our total capital levy that we do every year. That number is almost $50 million. That would be taking it out. But in doing so, we would do that at the same time as funding all of the stormwater projects through the stormwater fee. So you're taking out a revenue source to the capital reserve and you're taking out the funding of those projects. Your your capital reserve balance in the forecast still goes below zero further out in the forecast. Adding in a 0.75% increase to the capital levy allows that forecasted capital reserve number to stay above zero. So that 0.75 is not unique to stormwater, it is for the other pressures that we have in our capital reserve.
So in terms of projects so we don't have a detailed capital itemized list to look at. I'm just trying to get my head around, are we moving anything out of forward in capital as a result of this change? So we had a 10-year capital forecast. Are we moving any of those projects as a result of making this change?
Do you want to talk about the 24?
So through you, Chair Adams, we tried to articulate through that Appendix K. So the first chart that you see in Appendix K is what is currently funded through this $10 million coming from capital levy.
Right.
So in addition to being able to fund that $10 million from the stormwater fee and taking it off the levy, we would be able to also fund that second table of projects. So Table 2 in Appendix K, which is all of those resiliency improvement projects, those move into the forecast and get funded from the fee. So you would not only be able to, if we approved the fee, we would fund those total 97 million in Table 1 from the fee and be able to add in that other $91 million worth of projects to begin to accelerate those, and they would be funded from the fee.
And that links back to a 1.7, so to the
So the 1.7 only takes off the operating and our current level of capital funding, which is Table 1 of capital.
Okay.
So the fee allows you to not only fund our existing program, but allows you to add in additional projects that have not been in our forecast previously, which we listed out in that second table. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that helping to make sense?
Councillor,
So it's like we're being able to double our program by shifting to a fee.
I understand what we're trying to accomplish with the fee. I guess what I'm not articulating well is, are there other capital projects that are not stormwater related that we will then be pushing out in the 10-year plan? Because we don't have that detail in the book.
Through you, Chair Adams, I believe the 0.75 additional increase that Jonathan identified in that last line allows you to continue to fund all the other different program areas and capital projects that have been identified and are listed in the area. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't add in that 0.75, we would have to look and push some things out.
Okay, that's what I was looking for clarity on. But that's only for 2026. So is that going out the 10 years?
So through you, Chair Adams, on screen, I've pulled up what that capital reserve balance would look like. That blue line reflects adding a 0.75% increase to the capital levy. And that shows us being able to fully fund all of the projects through our capital reserve that we need to. And that line stays above or right at zero.
And it requires a 0.75% increase for 5 years.
Correct.
For each of 5 years.
Okay.
So 5 times 0.75.
I don't think I'm the only one who didn't necessarily grab that. So thank you for that clarity. Thank you for the books the other day. Where will we get the detail in the forecast?
So through you, Chair Adams. So We actually have capital detail sheets on every one of our capital projects over the tenure. Those are available on our website. It is 100 pages. That's why we for you, but they are available on our website with the budget book and our budget documents.
Okay, and is it identified as the budget detail? So the
Yep,
average?
it's on the main webpage, not the main webpage, sorry, the main budget webpage.
Okay.
And there's 3 documents listed there, and one of them is the capital forecast.
So my other question is, if we feel there should be movement of those project in some way, shape, or time window, when is that discussion? So maybe this question is for the chair.
The recommendation that we would put forward November 27th would be the discussion point for us to recommend changes to the mayor, and would have to come with a funding source or a change in the funding source, presumably. So if we want to advance a particular project from year 9 to year 5 or something like that, we would either have to push something else out or advance some funding somehow.
But the timing of that discussion, so all of us are all on the same page of any of those capital projects, if we want to move them forward or backward, that's the November 27th discussion?
That would be the first point of that discussion, because it would be the recommendation we make to the mayor, and the mayor then brings us his recommended budget for council's consideration in December. That's the final approval point for us, is the December meeting.
Okay, thank you for clarifying
the first
that.
point is the recommendation to the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? I've got Councillor Chisholm next then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we go back to the classifications or categories with respect to residents or okay. I might be rehashing old ground here, but I think it's going to reflect on the dollars. With respect to the methodology, with respect to how we assess this on the classifications, and I guess I take issue with townhomes and condos versus single detached. I'm just going to give you my perception here, or my logic. If single detached homes, it's going to cost us a total increase of $279, an increase in the fee. And then we get down to townhomes and condos, $89. Now, the argument is being, maybe the method, you can tell me the methodology and with respect to this, because if the argument is that I have a home and I have no storm water going off, it's on my property, it's being drained. Where you have condos and townhomes which have high density, where they have limited permeable surface, where it's mostly concrete or asphalt, and there's more going into the system. What is the rationale for that? Was there any consideration with respect to the stormwater runoff on those high density areas?
So through you, Councillor Adams, it's a really complicated to be able to explain all this. It is really comes down to the numbers and how things get calculated. So while it may appear that the townhomes and condos are paying less, the reason for they are being attributed to having a higher runoff coefficient applied to their property types. But when we have to take the whole pie into consideration, and we have less townhomes and condos across the town, so they attract less total, they represent less total runoff when we look at the whole area of the town. So that's why they attract a lower amount of that 24 million. And then the other factor is when you take that number and divide by the total number of different units that we have, because there's a large number of units going into that smaller amount, their fee per unit is lower. But if you were to say, for example, look at a condo building and say there's 10 units in that building, it's $60 per unit that represents that whole entire property area. So it's really just coming down to a factor of the fee is charged to an individual unit.
So
if
in
that
other
makes
words,
sense.
well,
But they are being charged or calculated using a higher runoff coefficient, which represents
Okay.
what you were speaking to in terms of they generate more runoff.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand here with the fee is based on accumulation of units in any project. Okay, so if you've got 20, so there's charged at $89, 90. So I'm rounding it up, $90 times 20. So that's what that would come out for that building. Is that correct? So
In
it's a
effect,
per
so
unit.
yes, that whole entire building or property would be paying more than a single detached property.
Okay, so the condo is townhouse is 113, so $113. So if there's 10 townhomes on that, so we're talking what my calculations there. Okay, so that's the rationale. I get it. Okay, thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this? All right. Thank you very much for the additional information. Jonathan, I really appreciate you doing the math on that and getting it back to us in the meeting. That's really helpful. I think we are ready to go forward with the next presentation. And when we're done with the presentation, perhaps before Q&A, we might take a shortish lunch break. I was hoping that we'd be done before lunch, but I kind of think we're going to need just a little bit more time. So are we ready with the next stuff? Yeah. We can just bring up the community services slide deck. That would be great.
Good morning. I'm pleased to provide our final Commissioner presentation on behalf of Community Services. Community Services, as you know, is comprised of Parks and Open Space, Recreation and Culture, Facility Services, and the Oakville Public Library. Our mandate, broadly stated, is to enhance community well-being for the residents of Oakville. The departments in Community Services are entrusted with protecting and connecting our community, enabling community spaces and enriching the lives of our residents. And our teams do that through their responsibility for the design and construction and maintenance of more than 2.2 million square feet of facilities and buildings. We maintain 826 hectares of parks and green space, 300 kilometers of trails, and more than 8,700 hectares of tree canopy. Fire will respond to approximately 9,200 incidents this year, and they'll conduct more than 1,650 inspections to prevent fires before they even happen. We'll welcome 400,000 visitors to our recreation and culture facilities, and we'll offer 7,000 registered programs to nearly 54,000 participants. And the Oakville Library will support thousands of residents, including the roughly 57% of Oakville households that have an active library card. Now, before we jump into the presentation, as a quick reference for you, you can find the budget details for community services starting at tab 10 to 12, and then tab 14 to 17 in your budget books. A colleague of mine often reminds me that of a phrase that goes, "A budget is a promise." And looking back at the promises that we made in our 2025 budget, I'm pleased to share some of the following highlights with you this morning. Under initiatives that advance the town's growth management strategic priority, we completed and initiated facility improvements at 16 Mile, Iroquois Ridge, and Glen Abbey Community Centers, as well as Fire Station number 5. We commenced building design for the new Central Library and Fire Stations 9 and 4. We started the search to acquire lands for the new Fire Station number 10 in Northeast Oakville. Fire developed a real-time interactive dashboard to measure performance and identify trends that will allow them to plan and optimize the deployment of resources that save lives and property in Oakville. We kicked off the Bronte Waterfront Strategy to set a vision for a more connected, four-season destination. And we initiated staffing and program planning for the 16 Mile Community Center and Library, which will be completed this year and open to the public in early 2026. To advance community belonging, we completed and council approved the Oakville's new events plan that will guide our efforts to enhance vibrancy in our community through events. We negotiated a 2-year contract with the Oakville Fire Union to provide stability in our emergency services. We rehabilitated the playground at Coronation Park, making it Oakville's first fully accessible playground. And Oakville Library continued to expand their reach to residents through community events and expanded programs. They also continued their efforts to preserve local history through the newspaper digitization project. Under accountable government, we initiated a project to confirm our priorities in recreation and culture and help refine our role with leading, supporting, and enabling recreation and culture in Oakville. We launched a cemeteries business plan, which will help us to determine the town's future role in meeting the demand for new burial and cremation services. And we completed audits and plans to comply with regulatory requirements in fire. To advance environmental sustainability, Parks and Open Spaces planted more than 63,000 trees, and Oakville Libraries distributed more than 20,000 packets of seed through their Seed Library initiative. Some additional highlights from the past year include a 90% customer satisfaction rate with recreation and culture programs. Recreation and culture also supported 1,700 residents with access to services through the fee subsidy program. We've updated 72% of our facilities to make them fully accessible, and we continue these upgrades by embedding accessibility as a core objective within all of our facility construction projects. And speaking of capital projects, we completed 61 of them this past year to maintain a state of good repair in our facilities and amenities. And finally, under Fire's leadership, the town achieved compliance for Emergency Management Ontario for our emergency planning readiness. Fire also continued to advance their diversity and inclusion initiatives through a variety of tasks that they undertook. An example of that is they are hosting the Fire Service Women of Ontario Symposium this week in Oakville, and I'm proud to say that the group has set a record for attendance with Oakville Symposium this week. They've also hosted a pilot location for the Cree Nation Mentorship Program that provides mentorship and training in fire prevention to First Nations. Last but not least, after nearly 2 decades of advocacy, we saw the approval of simultaneous notification for medical emergencies. That change will result in faster deployment of life-saving emergency services for medical calls and will, without a doubt, result in more lives being saved in our community. Now, over the next few slides, we'll turn our attention to the key actions that are planned for 2026. And under growth management, the development of an operations yard plan will assess our current and future needs to determine if we can optimize our current operations yard for roads and parks, or if we'll need to look at adding additional sites in order to meet our growing demand. In support of fire and emergency services, we'll undertake construction of Fire Station Number 9, located at 4075 6th Line. We'll advance construction of Fire Station Number 4 at 6th Line and Upper Middle, and we'll complete renovations of Fire Station Number 5 at 1146 South Service Road West. We'll open the eagerly anticipated 16-mile community center and permanent library branch, and we'll complete Phase 3 of North Park, which will include the addition of tennis, pickleball, basketball, and sand volleyball courts to complete what will become, and I do not exaggerate, the finest multi-sports park in Halton Region. We'll start Phase 1 redevelopment of Shipyard Park at the foot of 16 Mile Creek. We'll complete design of the new Central Library branch, which you'll see highlighted in the capital budget portion of this presentation, and we'll initiate planning for the future Trafalgar Urban Core South Library branch. To advance, jump to slide. Under growth management. Next slide. Little glitch, apologies. To advance community belonging, we'll launch implementation of the recently approved events plan. The library will continue its grant-funded partnership to integrate Indigenous knowledge and cultural literacy within its spaces and programs. Parks will rehabilitate several playgrounds and commence park construction at Meadow Ridge, Dartmouth, and Neighborhood Park Number 8. There are new splash pads planned for Ridgeview Park, Pine Glen Park, and Valley Ridge Park. We'll undertake accessibility upgrades at Queen Elizabeth Park Community Center, River Oaks Community Center, Trafalgar Park Community Center, the Central Operations Facility, and Town Hall. And we'll complete renovations to Rink A at the River Oaks Community Center and rehabilitation of the Falgarwood Outdoor Pool. Last but not least, fire will update and replace fire suppression and support vehicles that have reached the end of their service life. Under accountable government, we'll launch several key plans that were recommendations in our Parks, Recreation, and Library Master Plan to guide our direction in the coming years. These include a refresh of the culture plan, a development of a sport tourism strategy, a museum strategy, an older adult plan, a racket strategy that will guide our investments in pickleball, tennis, and other racket sports. And the library will undertake a 4-year strategic plan and service strategy. We'll complete modernization of the town security access card system across all our facilities. We'll finish the cemetery's business plan and initiate a harbors business plan and Bronte Outer Harbor Dock Master Plan to guide decisions on these key town assets. We'll complete the Bronte waterfront study, and we'll undertake important work related to emergency management and information systems in fire. Under environmental sustainability, we'll update the sustainable design standards for facilities to ensure that we're effectively balancing environmental and fiscal responsibilities in our building construction. We'll report back to Council on the iTree study to guide our efforts in protecting the town's tree canopy. We'll continue to advance the woodlot management rehabilitation program, and we'll complete lighting conversions to LED and HVAC replacements at end-of-life systems across facilities identified on the slide that you see here. Now we'll turn our attention to the numbers, starting with the 2026 operating budget proposal. Apologies, I skipped a slide again. I want to take a moment to talk about savings and efficiencies, and you previously heard in Director Vanderheiden and Director Clark's presentations about the town's commitment and dedicated efforts to continually search for efficiencies and savings. Now, in addition to the examples you'll see on the slide, I wanted to take a moment to highlight a key lean project that was completed in Recreation and Culture this past year. The project looked at improving our facility booking process, and the results of that project resulted in a 50% decrease in the average facility booking time for our customers. We saw a 25% decrease in staff hours required to complete bookings. And we saw a 25% increase in rental use at town facilities. So let me put that in context for you. This single lean project resulted in higher satisfaction rates for our customers. It mitigated the need to add additional labor costs, and because staff were freed up to focus on other things. And it increased revenues from facility bookings by making the booking process better for our customers. I highlight this because it's just one example that captures our commitment to efficiency and savings and the value of programs like Lean to support those efforts here at the town. Now we'll turn our attention to the numbers, starting with the 2026 operating budget proposal. In terms of net operating budget impact, 77% of the $125.5 million proposed budget is allocated to initiatives that advance community belonging, and you saw a number of those highlighted in the key action slide that we reviewed earlier. The remaining 23% of the operating budget supports environmental sustainability. Now, for the capital budget, 82% of the $15.28 million support community belonging projects, followed by environmental sustainability and growth. The community services budget accounts for roughly a third of the town's gross operating costs and 42% of the town's net operating costs. And for 2026, the vast majority of tax levy funding is allocated to support fire and emergency services, followed by parks, recreation and culture, and the Oakville Library. Now, the cost of facilities, cemeteries, and harbors amounts to approximately 3.5% of the tax-funded community services programs. I want to take a moment to highlight 4 key items that are seeking new operating funding for 2026. The first is a request for emergency management program specialists. With the growing risk from increasingly severe weather events, things like cybersecurity threats, and the always looming risk of some sort of emergency, the need for enhanced and dedicated resources to lead emergency management planning and readiness has become essential. Now, to date, these responsibilities have been managed through the Deputy Chief of Training and the Fire Chief. However, the need for more detailed planning, enhanced training, and provincial compliance requirements under Bill 25 necessitates the addition of a dedicated specialist to lead these initiatives on behalf of the town. The fire training officer position was identified in the fire master plan, and it is a required position to lead training that will enable the completion of mandatory firefighter certification in compliance with Ontario Regulation 342/22. The events supervisor position was a key recommendation from the recently approved events plan, and the position is key to leading implementation of that plan by improving internal processes, supporting revenue and marketing efforts, and managing day-to-day operations for both the town-led events and to support community-led events. Lastly, the conversion of seasonal part-time staff in parks will address staff retention and recruitment issues, and it will enable improved effectiveness of the parks labor force, who are required, frankly, year-round to meet the operational needs of our parks and trail system. We'll finally turn our attention to the Community Services capital budget for 2026. The Community Services capital budget accounts for almost half of the town's capital expenses in 2026. Of the $158.28 million in capital costs, the majority of these are allocated to the Oakville Library, followed by Recreation and Culture, Parks, Facilities, Fire, and Harbors. Under Community Belonging, the largest proportion of capital funding is earmarked for construction of the new Central Library, followed by funding for the acquisition of lands for the future Trafalgar Urban Core South Community Center. You Council will see a report on Central Library design and an update on the Downtown Cultural Hub in February of 2026. And at that council meeting, you'll review design options and financials for the new Central Library construction. In a separate report, we'll also provide you with an update on the ongoing work that's been completed to advance the balance of projects for the Downtown Cultural Hub. The remaining items include numerous facility maintenance improvement projects and funding to replace fire suppression and support vehicles highlighted earlier in our presentation. Last but not least, funds to complete rehabilitation of the Falgarwood and Brookdale outdoor pools are also included here. Lastly, to advance environmental sustainability, we've identified $13.6 million to renew and rehabilitate parks, trails, and park facilities, $5.7 million to develop new neighborhood parks, parkettes, and trails, and $4.1 million to maintain the health of the town's tree canopy through initiatives such as the Emerald Ash Borer Program, invasive species control, woodlot maintenance, and tree planting initiatives. Our last slides turn your attention to key council items that have been referred to the Budget Committee. Now, for Community Services, Council received a report back in May of this year on the Winter Recreation Strategy. It's a program that was originally launched as a pandemic-related initiative, but continued with tax rate stabilization funding due to its positive impact on the community and its popularity. At that council meeting, a decision on whether to fund the program permanently was referred to the Budget Committee. The cost of approving the program would increase the Parks and Open Space base budget by an additional $528,800 and would add an additional 0.8% to the current proposed tax levy. Now, should Council choose not to continue the program, the Winter Recreation Services will discontinue at the end of this year. But as a result, a Budget Committee decision on this matter will be required. In closing, I'd also invite you as Council to ask any questions you may have related to the budget report appendices that Finance presented at the outset of our Budget Committee meeting on Tuesday. And I'll just remind you, for Community Services, these appendices address questions and resident requests related to Gladeside Pond, the Sports Hall of Fame, Worthington Park improvements, senior services fees, emergency services fleet replacement, and the winter recreation strategy. And with that, I'm pleased to join our directors, the fire chief and the library CEO, who would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So thank you very much, and back to you, Chair Adams.
Congratulations on completing the final presentation. I see at least 3 hands up here, it is just about lunchtime, and there is some lunch. So I'm at your will in terms of whether you want to take a recess for some lunch and do questions, or do you want to do Q&A right now? Q&A, okay, let's forge forward. Councillor O'Meara. You're outvoted.
Thank
Lunch will wait.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for your presentation. With the With the closure of the Halton heritage and documents, what are we doing to prepare for what we're going to have to be absorbing in terms of historical documents, and whether it's the Oakville Museum or the Brawny Historical Society? What are we seeing in the budget that's going to prepare us for what will be forthcoming next year?
So through you, Chair Adams, I'm going to invite our director, Christina Zaitsman, to come up because she's been leading with her team discussions with regional staff on this matter.
Thank you. Through Chair Adams. Early days in terms of the work that's being done with the region. Our team's been engaged and are sitting as stakeholders on that table, but it's still too early to really understand any type of budget implications regarding the deaccessioning of the materials there. I will note that from the town's perspective, our interest is in items and artifacts that are significant to the town of Oakville as a whole. So not just broadly accepting anything, but certainly as we move through this process, we'll be sure to keep council updated as we move along.
Okay, because I know the regional councillors on this table will be asking the same questions of the region in terms of what they're going to be giving for all 4 municipalities as they take items. I know there's a capacity issue though, and I think we have to be thinking of that right now. Where are we going to put these items? How are we going to categorize them? How are we going to get the expertise? So I guess my question is, it's starting in January. So I mean, if this is going to wait till 2027 or 28, do we not have a marker where we or a study or something that we're putting in place for next year where we start to look at where are these things going to go? Because I think that just can't land on our desk as materials are ready to be passed. We have to start preparing for that. So I guess my question is financially, what are we doing to prepare for what we know is coming?
Sure, through the chair. It's our understanding that the deaccessioning project plan that the region is leading will extend beyond the end of this year, and that we won't be receiving materials as early as January. It's a pretty complex process to deessential the collection. But until we actually know what those items are that we're accepting, it's difficult to plan for that. So if there is a budget implication, we will be sure to bring it forward at the appropriate time when we have the full information for you.
I appreciate that, and I don't mean to rush it. So I guess what I would like from staff is to say, for the record, we are committed 100% to preserving all of our history and all of the historical documents. We're prepared, we will be prepared for it, and nothing is going to go astray during this process, and I'm hoping staff can just reaffirm that comment for me.
So through you, Chair Adams, what we'll affirm to you is that none of the important artifacts to the town of Oakville will go missing. They will be accessioned within our museum collection. I caveat with that with the very important statement around important to Oakville's history.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you. I have a quick question, couple quick questions, but I want to follow up on Councillor Mira's comments with the deaccessioning of regional artifacts and so forth to the town. The challenge will be is, of course, and Councillor Mir is absolutely right, what the financial impact will be, because most of this will probably have to go into storage. It won't be exhibited, it'll be storage. And if there's a couple of councillors on here who can remember when we had our divorce from the Historical Society in the town with respect to the splitting of the artifacts and all the work. And it is a tedious and it's a long range issue that we have for almost 2.5 years. And a lot of it went into storage. So I mirror Councillor Mira's comments and the cost to do this, to have staff and consultants come in and what we're going to do with the artifacts become #1 priority. As you know, the Oakville Museum is probably stacked. At one time, the coach house was used for storage. Then we went to a private units to store artifacts too. So there is going to be a financial impact, and I totally mirror what Councillor Mir is saying. We need to understand what the budget implications for that in the future. And even with that, we probably have a lot of our artifacts in storage that will never see the light of day. But I'd like to understand that too. Paul, with respect to what can be deaccessioned within our operations to avoid having storage that we're paying for that not necessarily will ever see that. And I know there's organizations and other private museums that might be interested in purchasing or acquiring certain artifacts that might be in duplication. For example, the weaves, I think at one time we had weaves, about 20 of them in storage over the years that were being collected. So I just want to have some a strategy on that down the line and the cost implications with respect to that coming forward. My second question, can we go to it was number 20 slide, please? Just for clarification, I just need some clarification on this, Paul.
Councillor, was there a question on slide 20?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's the last one.
Just the new
I
operating
can tell you what it was. It was seasonal positions going into full time. It didn't qualify or quantify how many new FTEs would be with seasonals being transitioned into full time.
So through you, Chair Adams, great question. I'm going to call up our director, Chris Mark, who will give us that number, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Or I can answer, he's just whispered it to me in the crowd. He indicated it was 20 part-timers.
Yeah, but
very efficient. Thank you, Kristen.
So what's that equating to FTEs?
20 full-time.
Oh, 20 full-time.
20, perhaps he'll come up.
Hold
My
on,
apologies. Apparently we don't have this down tight, so I'm going to hand it over to him.
That's okay, Paul.
They were doing strong stage whispers from about the fifth row back or something.
Through you, Chair Adams, the total money is about $45,000, and it's converting to three full-time employees.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McNeese.
Thank you, through you, Chair Adams. Just a couple quick questions. I might need Chris in a sec, so don't go too far. The Valley Ridge splash pad, I saw that on the list of new splash pads. Now, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm sure I've been there and they have a splash pad existing. Is this a reconstruction, or am I confused about something?
Through you, Chair Adams, yeah, that's probably a poor choice of words. We do have one there already. It's been there for about 15 years, called Elephant Park, actually, if you look up Google. It is past its life cycle, and it will be rehabilitated next year.
Okay, so it's similar format and everything, and it's just a rehabilitation.
That's correct.
Okay. While you're up there, just on the Appendix G related to Worthington Park that's being considered, just wondering if, I don't expect you to have it now, but the top 4 nearest parks are across a major road, and when I sort of do the walking distance, it's like 1,000 meters, not 300. And the closest one would, to get there quickly, you'd have to go through a private school, up a fence and all that to do it in under the 800 meters. Is that something for later on we could have a better idea of the walking distance for these folks, assuming that they're not jaywalking across Lakeshore? I don't think we want to encourage that in any way.
Through you, Chair Adams, that's correct. We will look at that as we have consultations with the residents. I did say in the memo as well that roadways and the type of roadway, be it a collector or arterial, would play a major factor in whether or not we would recommend a playground there or not, because just the fact that we just don't want children crossing major arterial roads to get to a playground. So it's a combination of distance as well as the type of roadway that children and parents would have to cross.
Okay, and even if we just, those ones across Lakeshore, even if we just had what is the meters of walking distance, I think would help us make that decision, because in some of my calculations it's triple to actually get to the park that is on a radius 300 meters, but it's close to 1,000 if you actually look at how they'd have to walk there, go across their line, backtrack, go up a side street, and hopefully not hop a fence or jaywalk and stuff. So that's just homework, please. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Thank you, through you, Chair Adams. It's a question I meant to ask actually on infrastructure as well, but could you report back what percentage of culture and recreation's operating costs are covered by the rates and fees we charge? So we have a variety of different increases in the rates and fees. Some are at 3.5%, some are at 5%. We're collecting and generally have a philosophy of user fees covering, understanding what percentage of those dollars collected are covering the culture and recreation component of your budget. I would appreciate knowing, and I don't expect you to have that answer today.
So through you, Chair Adams, we will get back to you with that. I don't have it at hand, unfortunately, but we will calculate that and bring it back to council.
Okay, thanks very much. And my last question is, there was a late submission regarding forestry, and you may or may not have seen it because it really is quite late breaking. And it's really speaking to, we have this magnificent mature canopy, but as it ages, it's on private property. It is for property owner's responsibility. However, we have bylaws and policies that the implication of replacing one that may be not totally failing, but it's having issues. I wondered if the staff could review that letter and at least come back with a memo that explains what we may or may not be able to do, even around tree bylaw or an initial consult, what support could be provided because we all benefit from that amazing canopy.
So through you, Chair Adams, we'll be happy to do that. We'll pull a memo together for Budget Committee on that.
Thanks very much.
Okay, Mayor Burton? Okay. Councilor Lischina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. So this is an observation, considering I walk a lot of the neighborhoods and trails. I've noticed quite a bit of new tree planting failure, and I'm just hoping if we could get some bigger data on that. I saw about 63,000 were planted last year, so my question is, what are the failure rates? I understand it's a 2-year guarantee, I believe. I don't have to answer that at the moment, and then how are those trees, when they're replanted, are they counted as new trees or still from prior years? So just that delineation, and if that's changed or if there's a trend with respect to the failure rates. Thank you. And I'm sorry, Chris, for always sending you pictures of those.
Okay. I think our staff will be able to get you something on that. Any other questions? Councillor Haslett-Thiel again?
I'm sorry, I missed one. Could someone give an explanation or at least a benchmark comparison of the emergency services administrative costs? Because the percentage increase is really offside of what the direction was, but I'm sure there's a rationale there, and I apologize I haven't had time to have a conversation offline, but when you look, I'm grateful every day that we're going to send people home safe and that you're going to be there when we need you, but there's no explanation in the report that I feel helps me understand that level of increase.
So thank you for the question through Chair Adams. I've just conferred visually with the chief. He will bring back information to Budget Committee to give you a more fulsome response to that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Well, congratulations, everybody. We've gone through all the presentations and all the Q&A, and it's 12:03. Okay, let's just finish up with the business of the committee then. There are 3 discussion items that are actually on the agenda. The first is 5.1, which is the 2026 operating and capital budget. And the recommended motion is that staff presentations on the 2026 operating and capital budgets be received, that the responses from staff on the request from budget committee members be received. Now, we have asked for, thank you, Councilor Lischina, for giving me the motion. We have asked staff for a bunch of additional information. Staff, do you feel that you have confidently pulled together all the questions that you're going to come back with? Yeah, you've got a list. I've kind of tried to collect them, and we can consult later to make sure that we've collected all the questions together. Everyone good with that? Okay, we have a motion. Any objections to that? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Number 5.2 are the reserves and reserve funds outlook. The recommendation is that the staff report dated October 14th, entitled Reserves and Reserve Funds Outlook from the Finance Department be received. It's been moved by Councillor Knoll. Any other questions on that? That's great. Any opposed? I see none. That's carried. Thank you very much. The last is item 5.3, the 2026 rates and fees. There's a minor change to the wording on this one, which is to reflect that we're not approving it today, but rather we're reviewing it for implementation on January 1st, 2026. So it gives us the opportunity to further discuss it and make recommendations on November 27th. So the recommendation, part one, reads that the rates and fees established in the rates and fees schedule attached as Appendix A to the October 14, 2025 report from the Finance Department be reviewed for implementation on January 1st, 2026, instead of approved. Okay?
Great.
And the remainder of the motion remains the same. Could I get a mover of that? Councillor Shi, thank you very much. Any objections? I see none. That's carried. Congratulations, everybody. We've completed the work of the committee today. There are no confidential discussion items, and so we are going to adjourn. I look forward to working with you on any further questions that might come forward. We do have the individual sessions for members of council to have Q&A with members of staff coming up the first week of November. I recommend to you to attend if you've got questions that you want to walk through in a quiet space, one-on-one with our staff to better understand any programs or the stormwater fee and so forth. We are working on an open house on November 5th to be hosted here at Town Hall. So if you've got members of the public who want to better understand something or have a specific question about a program, funding source, or anything like that, please send them there, and we'll happily do one-on-one Q&A with them to make sure that they get the information they need. Councillor Chisholm.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank staff for the presentations. They're very informative and a lot of work has been put into it. So my congratulations to the staff putting it together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, I think that carries everything that we need to do today. We're adjourned. Look forward to seeing you next time.